Hey, welcome to MAREI. Tonight, land trusts, the pros, the cons, and the alternatives featuring attorney Rick Davis. We'll get started shortly. Before we do, please be sure to like, subscribe, and get the notifications of our future videos.
Now, the other thing, and I know I had a slide about this, but I'll just go ahead and say it now too, is that as Kim talked about kind of the genesis of this meeting or how we got here today, she mentioned how there's a lot of gurus that say things. And I can tell you that as a real estate lawyer, I cringe at a lot of things that gurus say. I'm going to talk about some myths related to the land trust. And what I specifically did is I actually took screenshots from websites of companies, none of which are local, but that sell services to people here locally, whether it be formation of entities or land trust. Some of you may know some of them. I have removed all logos and names because the point here is not to call anybody out. But the point is to kind of point out why sometimes just seeing something from a guru isn't the way to go. The other thing that I want to mention as we talk about that too, and if I could impart one thing on everybody in this room today, whether it be if you learn something about land trust, that's great. Really, if I could get everyone here to learn too, is look past the marketing points. Because on some of these, we're going to talk about the fact how the heading doesn't really match what they're saying as they go on, or the title of the video, if you watch the hour-long video, or whatever it might be, because the buzzwords sell. Right? Litigation proof, that's a buzzword, it sells, that kind of thing, but maybe what they're actually saying isn't quite the truth. This is what I took off of a website that sells entity formation services, and you may have seen this kind of thing because it's a person that talks a lot in groups that we all might be on, or websites, and what it says is, what is a land trust, you ask? Anonymous land trust, also known as title holding trust, are a little-known legal tool that offers smart investors a way to hold property anonymously. The next sentence is better, we'll get to that. But that made me cringe. Because what I hear a lot, and what I get from people who call my office is thinking that they're going to form a land trust and that you're going to be entirely anonymous. That's not the truth. And we're going to break that down in more detail as we talk today. But let's just start with that. Let's hit into myth number one. Now, I already touched on it a moment ago, and it's this idea that land trusts are anonymous. Now, I showed you that web page a moment ago from one company that stated in its own definition of a land trust that it's an anonymous way to own property. Here's another screenshot, and this is a website from a lawyer that's trying to sell trusts. And as you might have noticed, it actually titled the product or the service Anonymous Land Trust. This deed was pulled from the Jackson County records. I blocked everything off again, like we talked about, except for part of the address on purpose. And this is literally a deed that was prepared for a trust formed by the exact same company whose website we looked at on the last screen. It was talking about anonymous land trusts. Now there's a reason that there's one piece of information that I left showing. And the reason is because in about 30 seconds, I figured out who owned that trust. When you're forming these type entities and the ways that people could figure out who you are, who don't have to go to a lawyer. And so this is an example. So on this particular deed, it stated that the recording should be returned to. Now I can tell you, and I did this on purpose when I was doing this exercise, I went and found the deed that transferred this property out to, so that way I could kind of confirm that that address did match the person. And I did a few extra steps that a lawyer might do to confirm those things if I was getting ready to sue. But my point is that anyone could look at that and say, okay, let's do an address search for that address. We figure out who owns the trust. And so is that it's never really about trying to protect from every kind of lawsuit. It's about thinking about those big lawsuits. And at the end of the day, and this will go to myth number two, I'm skipping ahead. If you do something wrong, it's not going to matter what entities you form, or what tactics you use, or what you do, because you're personally going to be responsible at the end of the day. And number two, a land trust is lawsuit proof. I don't think I saw that exact quote anywhere, but I saw close things. Again, these are screenshots from various different websites here. And, like they don't know that you own the assets, they may not sue you. The other side doesn't, I think I said this exact one earlier, if the other side doesn't know who you are, how can they sue you? Here's another one right here, attorneys who work on contingency. They're not going to want to go if it appears that you're broke. Well, here's the truth, and this is the kind of cold hard facts. I started with it, I'm going to say it again. If one of you comes to me and says that you need to sue someone and you have a $1 million claim, I'm sure as hell going to figure out who owns that trust. And so is every other attorney worth a grain of salt. And so to think that you're going to, as we talked about earlier, make your assets litigation proof by putting them in a trust or any other entity structure, it's not going to happen. This is better. This is more honest. And so what it tells you is that by using a land trust, someone might not be able to just quickly get your name by going to the property records and annoy you with solicitations. That's true. It's not as simple as forming a land trust, and or a land trust may not even be the answer because there are ways you can do it with other entities that we'll talk about in a second. But shielding your name from being easily discovered might have some value to you. When you should use a land trust is when you're doing a subject to purchase. And so when you're purchasing a property and you're keeping an existing mortgage, these were some of the most actually egregious website clips that I took, where you can see flat out that it says, this transfer does not trigger the due on sale clause of the mortgage. And you're going to note that it references law. What I'm going to point you to here is it says, whatever the case may be, there's a law that prevents mortgagors from invoking this clause. Has anybody in this room heard that? Let's start there, or read that somewhere. That if you put land into a trust, then it's not a due on sale. Couple people. Here's the thing. I'm now going to bring up the actual law that was just cited by the lawyer at the screen. And what you'll see is a transfer into an inter vivos trust, which is a trust that's formed while the person is living, and so a general estate planning tactic, in which the borrower is and remains a beneficiary and which does not relate to a transfer of rights of occupancy in the property. It's a statute. It's a federal statute on that. It's a little legalese. Everyone may not get what was said. So I'm going to kind of break that down a little bit. So again, if we think about what a trust is, it's an agreement between you and a trustee, or the person who forms it, the settlor and a trustee, to act on behalf of the beneficiary. So if you have a trust with a rental property, and there's income from that rental property, the income goes to the beneficiary. Right? Following me. Come. So if we go back and read this statute again, a transfer into an inter vivos trust in which the borrower is and remains a beneficiary. Most of you are connecting the dots that I'm trying to connect with you right now. What that means is that if your attempt at forming a trust is to then go back to this law and say that a mortgage can't be called due, then you have to let the person you bought the property from receive all of the income and be the beneficiary under the trust. The second half is then it does not relate to a transfer of occupancy in the property. So not only do you have to continue to give the seller the money, you have to let the seller live there.